at InfoWarsShop.com or link through at Infowars.com. Get it. Knowledge is power. This is a weapon against the globalist. The worst drought in 50 years. Well, I was going to Truth Warrior, who I saw on hold earlier in the week. I never got to it, and I was about to go to him, and he hung up. So let's go to Sandy in Florida. You're on the air with the author of Clouded Titles, Dave Krieger. Go ahead.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, ma'am. Do you have a question or comment?
Kind of a question and a comment. Well, actually, I was helping a friend of mine who's been facing foreclosure. She's been fighting successfully through an attorney, but then they dropped her because the banks wanted to do a modification, and she didn't. So we went pro se because we couldn't find any attorneys to help us. One actually said, you know what happens when people come against the system? They get killed. So we went and we showed the judge that the assignment of mortgage was done 2 months after they had already first filed for foreclosure. So when she talked to the attorney said, oh, that we took care of that before. And she said, no, there's nothing in here about that. And then she said, do you have the original? He said, no. Finally, she looked at him and she goes, you got a serious problem here. And she says, but I'm not dismissing the case. And she looked at my friend. She goes, because I'm not going to give you a place for free. So they stopped it. They didn't give them the summary judgment. So listening to you, I've written down some notes. She did get an attorney because when my friend said to the judge, we feel there's fraud involved in the actual...
Sure, we're not going to be able to break down the whole case here today, ma'am, or give you, things that are going to win. You need to get the book or do further research. But do you have a question for our guest?
Well, yeah, the question is that they want to do mediation. Should we bring up... They're supposed to have a title expert. So if he's there, should we bring up the whole thing about what you were mentioning about the...
Well, ma'am, we can't sit here and give you advice over the air and know the particulars, but I appreciate your call. But I'm sure you hear this all day, Dave.
I do a lot. And, basically the way things are, if I was in that position, Alex, I would be, looking at the attorney and I'd be saying, okay, what's wrong with the logistics here and why aren't we arguing these things? I mean, he needs to speak up. My biggest concern, because she was sitting there talking about a loan mod, if you've got a document or an assignment that is questionable, and it's questionable, then the question then becomes, or the issue becomes, why am I negotiating and doing a loan mod with a lender that may not own my note? This. Yeah,
but that shows you've already gotten pretty far. That now they're trying to.
Well, see, the problem with loan mods is it drives the borrower because it takes a long time to get a loan mod done, and the whole time that this is happening, the borrower is either making trial payments or not making payments at all. And they're getting deeper in debt, and there's more servicing fees being added on by the servicer, and so as an end result, it costs more to dig out of the snowdrift, once everything is all piled up around you. So, this is why we go back to the core and look at chain of title versus chain of custody of the note.
Exactly. They're trying to change the subject. Let's go to Bob in Florida. Bob, you're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Listen, it's funny that you guys are bringing this up today. I had a piece of property that was sold yesterday, and I got a phone call from the title company, and here the notary at the county level never had a witness when she notarized it. Now, she's a county employee, never had it witnessed, and here the title company will not allow the sale to go through, and I was told I have to go get an attorney.
Well, that's one of the good things now. They're starting to make them not do all the robo behavior. Go ahead.
No, that's a valid argument and a valid reason to go get counsel because of the fact that, somebody might be subtly sending you a message that you might have an out here. You might be able to vacate the entire judgment and sale because of the fact of the way the case was done. And that's, when you're seeing any little thing that's wrong, including not having a notary witness or any number of little factors that creep into this situation.
Yeah, what's happening is you've got moral people who thought that the IRS and other places were legitimate. Now they're finding out it's all a fraud. Got people at the county level, they're not allowed to come out and speak out against it because of the tyranny, but they will sit there and give you tips. They will, explain things to you.
Well, they can't give legal advice either, Alex, but they can drop subtle hints, and that's apparently what this gentleman has happened to him. And so if somebody says, I really think you need to get an attorney because I see a problem here, they're basically speaking off the cuff to you, but what they're doing is they're dropping a subtle hint that you may have a case. And, you always have to entertain that. You can't, for you to sit there and do nothing diminishes your chances exponentially.
And the more of us fight them just by sheer numbers, it's going to drive this out in the open. Great call, sir. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, the only other question is, do you have any recourse, because now I have to get an attorney to deal with something that the county was supposed to do?
Okay, real fast. We're almost out of time. Sure.
Okay,
You'll find out more in the book, Clouded Titles, InfoWarsShop.com. It's a complex issue. You're putting on seminars breaking this down.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're doing the CODA workshop in Chicago on the 18th and 19th of this month. And you can go online to cloudedtitles.com and sign up. I can count on my hand the number of seats I have left available in that Chicago workshop, many of which, by the way, are your InfoWars viewers. So.
All right, Dave Krieger, great job. Thank you for coming in. Coming up, the video's encoding. It's almost done right now. I got buzzed by a drone today. I'm not joking. We got the footage.
We're on the march. And at El Paso.
Yeah, you know why we played this song today? Because I remember an Associated Press article 7-8 years ago saying banks do favors for illegal immigrants. And it had different bank heads saying, oh, yeah, you don't even have to have ID if you're an illegal. We'll just give you a home loan, whatever else. But citizens, you have to show 4 or 5 forms of ID. And now the federal government issues illegals fake tax ID numbers. The states accept their driver's license, not because they care about these people, but because they want to drive down wages and they want to play us off against each other and they want to make everybody poor. Because that's how economies work. When you bring in giant, unskilled, massive workforces, it drags down the base wage. And this all gets into basic economic theorem, but the point is the system knows exactly what it is doing. And then the citizens get the book thrown at them, because being a citizen, I mean, I've thought about before, of course, I would be prosecuted because I'm seen as a mark because I'm an American. If you're Hispanic, black, white, Asian, if you're a citizen, you're seen as a chump. So if I announced that my name was Juan Gonzalez and started just drunk driving and I wouldn't get a $10 fine. I'd get, they'd find out who I was and try to put me through the system. But I've talked to assistant prosecutors here in Austin. They've come to my office with their business cards. I've seen them on TV and said, well, I can't come on air, but here's the places to look. Problem is I'm so overwhelmed, I don't have time to get into all this most of the time. And they were going, yeah, what you talk about, $10, $20, $30 fines for drunk driving, you name it, when the police arrest them. I've had cops tell me this. One night, one of my IT guys' driver's license was expired. I pulled up at the office like 8 o'clock at night. I've told the story 20, 30 times. And I see one of my IT guys, a contractor, in handcuffs. And he turned into the office. They thought that was suspicious. They came over, ran stuff. His license was expired. And I said, can't you just give him a ticket for that? Can't you just... And they're like, well, we're encouraged sometimes. It was still suspicious. And by the way, we went in your building. We thought it was suspicious he went in the building. And I was like, you thought it was suspicious he went in the buildling? Because, yeah, it was an excuse to go. Cops ran around inside my office. They thought he was suspicious. Yeah, he looks real suspicious wearing a button-up, clean shirt, 6'2", looks like a Sunday school teacher. He looks really evil. And I forgot that part. So they handcuffed him. The door was left open, so they ran around inside the office. They thought he was running away. He pulled in, we're right off the road, came in. Cops pull up. He calls me. He goes, there's all these cops out here. What do I do? And I said, well, I guess go talk to him. He comes out. They put him in handcuffs, go in the building. And I was asking him. The cops and the police officer, the head guy's like, oh, Alex Jones, we're listeners. And I'm sitting there with like 4 cops. And I'm going, okay. And a couple were leaving. So it was 4, but others had already left. Oh, yeah, I like your show. I'm in a rock and roll band. I retire in 6 months. Boy, the cops are rude in New York. I was up there and asked for directions. They got in my face. Yeah, hey, we're taking your guy to jail. I was like, why? And she goes, well, she was the first to be here, and so that's what she wants to do. I guess he didn't look like he enjoyed having him come to the door and stuff. So, and I went and I said, but if he was an illegal, you'd let him go. And he goes, yeah, probably, even if he was drunk driving, because the judges, they just let him go, and it's kind of frowned upon for us to even arrest him. And all the cops are sitting there nodding their head. And I'm trying to talk to the woman cop, and I'm like, come on, let him go. Be reasonable. And she looked mad. She wouldn't talk to me. So I just said, oh, that's great. And she drives off with him, and the other cops are like, hey, I like this on the show. And it was like it was like they were being friendly and nice and were listeners, but we're so used to selectively enforcing and abusing citizens that it didn't even connect with them, what they were doing. It didn't even connect with them, what they were doing. The illegal aliens in most states, you can look this up, get better in-state tuition than people that even live in the state. They get their babies paid for when they have babies, everything. And again, it's wrong. It's wrong. You can't go to Mexico and be treated like that. You can't be an illegal alien in China and be treated like that. Folks, you know what they do to an illegal alien in Mexico? Look it up. In fact, you can pull up headlines. Mexico, most abusive to immigrants, illegal immigrants. In fact, type it in, guys. New York Times, you name it. They put you in a hard labor work camp with mosquitoes, snakes, you name it, with big fences around it, busting rocks for gravel, the old-fashioned deal, for 1 year. And do you know what happens while you're in the slave camp? They run your ID and extort your family. Because if you don't send them money, they will let you starve and will kill you. Mexico runs real live concentration camps. In fact, I saw a number of thousands of Guatemalans a year that try to get into Mexico to get to the U.S. end up dying in the slave camps. In fact, I'll type it in. Watch this. Mexico abuses illegal immigrants. There's WSBT. Mexico officials accused of abusing illegal immigrants. Hypocrisy, Mexico's immigration stance. Report alleges, and it just goes on, but there's a bunch of them. You can find it. Illegal immigrants really are abused in Mexico. And I mean, let me tell you, folks, you talk about hellish. But my whole point is, can I come to Mexico and just get on a bunch of welfare and have one house in Austin? Because my whistleblower was saying it was $500,000 or something a year. It was $89 million to 10 houses in Austin. Just where I live, $89 million. We showed you that out of Accounting Business Times yesterday. Okay, now for our top story here today. This happened when I was driving to work. And it was about 10 a.m., and I'm driving down 290. And I could tell they must have a checkpoint up ahead or a wreck. They like to do checkpoints at the Y for the commercial vehicles, the trucks. But they shut down the road a lot. So I have to leave, really early now. Used to take me 30 minutes to get to work. Now it could take over an hour because of the checkpoints, and the Austin police are now wearing Marine Corps drill sergeant hats. I hadn't seen that yet. And they were out there. But so I'm seeing pretty heavy traffic, and I'm dreading it going, man, I left, an hour and 20 minutes before the show because I get ready at home. I thought, man, I've got to find another route to work through the checkpoint. Because it's not a major highway. They just do it where these roads come together in just in the middle of the worst snarl in Austin, the Y. So I'm sitting there, and I look up, and I go, is that a bird? Is that a plane? No, that's a drone. And right over the highway at about 125, 150 feet or so is a drone moving back and forth. And I look over, and I see what looks like a Texas Department of Transportation truck. And I see a guy with a hard hat sitting there running it. And I pull off. And you're about to see that video. And I get out and talk to the guy. And I interviewed him for about 20 minutes. We'll probably air most of the interview on the Nightly News tonight, but this is some excerpts of it where we have some of the better audio because I shot it on an iPhone. A lot of it's not that good for radio. And, the guy knew who I was, and then listeners started stopping and honking and getting out and taking photos. And then he was like, hey, it's not bad that I have a drone. I'm like, look, it's okay for maps of the highway, with your video/still camera flying around. But I said, no, but we're asking about weaponized drones. He said, oh, that's a conspiracy. And he was a really nice guy. But we've put together the video with articles for him. And he said there's, I think, 4 or 5 of these just with their company operating in Austin. But, I thought we might even hire the guy for the shooting show sometime to come out and show us when we're shooting with the drone. It's a camera wings, low-level area.